the serious threats to our life expectancy that have emerged that I'm caring about, they're mental. These are self-inflicted injuries. These are death by drug overdose, by suicide, and the iatrogenic errors, the medical errors that, now you could say, how many quality of life years are lost by a medical error in someone who's already sick. When you take this qualis perspective, it is the young people who are killing themselves that are the object of my attention right now. We have an extraordinary mental health crisis in this country. I think engineering has something to offer, and most of my colleagues disagree. But that's my primary concern.
Yeah. That's really interesting. So a couple of thoughts occur to me. I mean, I think what you said about the idea that the sort of obvious environmental toxins or poisons that we smell, taste, touch are less abundant than they used to be, certainly. And now it's the hidden stuff that is kind of hard. And one of the challenges that makes it more difficult to pinpoint how big is the effect.
Correct.
So it creates a lot of fear, which probably feeds into the mental health challenges and stress that people are experiencing. But is it on par with these other, environmental problems that we had 20, 30 years ago? Yet in other parts of the world, I'm thinking China and India in particular, those are the problems right now, right? So it also depends on where you're at.
Choking on garbage and sewage, absolutely.
And also what you said about life expectancy and particularly I think the drug epidemic that is killing so many younger people, and that's where you really see the impact on life expectancy. Clearly, a major societal problem. But I would also say, I think one of the things that I think a lot about is even with increases in life expectancy, how much of those years are quality years?
The good ones. Yeah. It's not lifespan, it's healthspan, right, which you've incorporated straight into your messaging.
And I would argue, though, that if you actually look over the last 40 years, it's difficult. It depends a little bit on how you define healthspan, but it's difficult to make a compelling argument that healthspan has actually increased. We've done a good job at keeping people alive longer, but most of those people have chronic disease, at least one, often more than one. So there's a lot of complicated challenges here.
It's been incredibly expensive to add those low quality years to the end of their life. And my parents, who have both passed away, God rest their soul, are good examples. My father, he was born in 1930. And he had a different attitude towards doctors and towards medicine than I have, because he thought of his health as his doctor's problem. And at first I was really angry with him.
That's interesting.
Before he passed, he was sort of bragging, because my father's a weird guy, about all the different kinds of cancer in his body. And I said, well, Dad, what are you going to do? And he said, oh, that's my doctor's problem. Like, that's a crazy attitude. But from his perspective, I can see how it made sense. He has health insurance. He has Medicaid, Medicare, whatever at his age. And when you go to the doctor, which is where health problems, that's where you're supposed to go to take care of a health problem for his generation. The doctor says, well, let's see if we can get you a referral for this or approved for that, or you need an order to do this. And for his generation, it really was that somebody else was in charge. Every experience of healthcare he had was either moderated or decided by someone else.
Did you get the impression he was happy with the quality of healthcare that he received?
I think that on a personal basis, he liked his doctors, but institutionally, he wasn't satisfied at all, because you bump up against all of the limitations and all of the frustrations that happen when you're a patient. The difference now is that we have broadband internet. People don't start with their medical doctor. They might like their medical doctor, but they don't trust the FDA, the CDC, the government, the policies, the food pyramid, all the things that have been revealed as damaging to our health. So they go to the web and they find Healthline or WebMD or Cleveland Clinic or Mayo Clinic or any other website that they trust to get what they hope is objective information, and then they start diagnosing themselves. Yeah. And so that creates that meme, don't confuse your internet search with my medical degree. But the fact is that the medical degrees are out of date. I'm not sure when you completed your doctorate, but the only way for you to stay up to date is to read the literature. Sure. You've got the lab equipment. You're generating new knowledge. And this is what a PhD trains us to do. A medical doctor, they go through all of their schooling, and they don't have any time to read. They're seeing patients, or they're performing surgery. They're
Yeah.
not generating new experiments, so they kind of get locked into a way of thinking that is obsolete.
I somewhat agree. I mean, I think a lot of what you said, certainly, I would agree with. I think also, though, there is a cultural challenge with the current practice of medicine, which is really, what I call the repair shop mentality, right? Of waiting until a problem surfaces before you do anything about it. So, I mean, we could spend hours just talking about the systemic challenges of the current healthcare system, I think. But I would also say, I'm not sure that the approach of going to WebMD or, the latest and greatest internet influencer to get your health information is
Agreed.
any better. In fact, I would suggest that it's probably in many ways worse. And really, I think what we get left with is this situation where nobody knows what to believe anymore.
Mm-hmm.